From WJLA 24/7 News, we begin with a breaking news alert.
And we begin tonight with President Biden's historic announcement, writing a letter to his fellow Americans, posting on social media that although it has been a great honor of his life to serve as president, he believes it is in the best interest of his party and the country to stand down. Just 24 hours ago, voters gathered outside of the White House demanding that President Biden do exactly what he did today, step aside. It was a so-called pass the torch rally full of supporters and critics. Those ralliers got their wish. President Biden announcing that he is dropping out of the race. And it comes ahead of a busy week on Capitol Hill. The Secret Service director is set to testify tomorrow on the assassination attempt of former President Trump. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is addressing Congress later this week. Now, people have been outside of the White House all day long reacting to today's news. That's where we find 7 News reporter Rebecca Turco live. And Rebecca, describe what you've seen around the White House tonight.
Well, really, there's just been so many different emotions out here, so many different opinions. For the Democrats we caught up with, it's certainly been a lot to process here. And for the Republicans, they're still confident that Donald Trump's going to come out on top. A crowd drawn to the White House after President Biden announced he's dropping out of the race.
And there's so much riding on this election.
So many emotions, from fear to gratitude to frustration.
If you can't run for president, you don't have the ability to be the president.
Signs saying bye alongside ones thanking the president. For the Statums, it's a house divided, politically at least.
He's stepping down, doesn't matter to me. He's going to lose anyway.
It was the right decision, I feel, just because of his health and well-being.
Pastor William Statham has no doubt Donald Trump will win again. His wife Marie is worried that'll happen now with Biden out of the picture.
I think it's gonna boost Donald Trump's chances of becoming elected.
She's not alone in feeling that way.
And I understand he's not as sharp as he used to be. But it's very late in the game to be changing horses. And so this is not a move that's without significant risk.
Glenn Boyce is emotional, thinking how difficult a decision it must have been for the president. He's ready to support whoever the Democratic Party backs, hoping they'll make a decision soon, while others feel Biden's not fit to finish out his term.
He should resign and make Kamala the president. I'm not going to vote for her. I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'll probably write in a third party.
And at a time when the country can feel so divided, the Statums are a reminder that different beliefs can still come together and get along.
We really both believe this is the greatest country in the world. We do.
And of course, there's still a lot to unpack here, still lots of questions even heading into the Democratic National Convention in the next few weeks. So certainly something we'll all be keeping an eye on. Reporting live from the White House, Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Well, the vice president has been endorsed by President Biden, but has not officially entered the presidential race. Delegates still need to officially nominate a candidate to go up against the Republicans. A virtual vote is expected to happen between August 1st and the 7th. The Democratic National Convention will be held in Chicago August 19th through the 22nd. And of course, we'll have full coverage of the 4-day event on air and online. Well, tonight is a night when the news becomes a moment in history. A sitting president has chosen to end his campaign for re-election. And while this has happened before, it has never happened this close to Election Day. So what does this mean for the nation? Gary Nordlinger joins us live to provide perspective. He's a professor of politics at George Washington University. And a lot of questions today, especially about the process moving forward. Vice President Harris has been endorsed by the president, as we just said, but she knows she still needs to earn and win the nomination, in her own words. What happens next in this process?
Well, she is off to an amazingly fast start. I mean, she's already amassed, I think, about 120 endorsements from congressional Democrats, senators, and governors. So she's moving quickly, I think, to try to head off any significant opposition. And as you pointed out, the next step will be for the actual delegates of the Democratic Convention to cast their ballots for a candidate.
Now, former President Trump got a bump after the assassination attempt last week, as was expected. What kind of movement in the polls can we anticipate for Democrats after a development like today's?
That's the million-dollar question, because a lot of the Democrats have been saying over the last several weeks that in reality, Harris doesn't poll that much better against Trump than Biden does. But, I think I was saddened by Biden's decision to pull out because I think he's a very decent human being who's served the country for more than 50 years. But it was something I think he had to do. Once you get this image as having memory problems and senility and everything else, it's very difficult for the country to get past that.
Absolutely. And so what now? What kind of shift will the Trump-Vance campaign have to make now? It would be the same administration here, of course, but a much different potential candidate in Harris as far as energy level and
Totally
youth.
different. Very different candidate. You've gone from an 81-year-old president to what I think a 59-year-old vice president as a candidate. And, Trump is no youngster. He's 78 years old. So the whole dynamics of the race has changed. You no longer have two elderly white men running. I used to joke that there are two candidates that both Biden and Trump would actually be old enough to qualify for pre-boarding on Air Force One. So it's a different dynamic with younger candidates. The Democrats, particularly when you look at the names being mentioned for vice president, have gotten, they've done a big generational shift here in terms of getting away from 70-some-year-old candidates down into people that are in their 50s and 60s. My biggest surprise in 2020 was that all of the final four Democratic candidates were in their 70s. That really surprised me in 2020.
Yeah, certainly not getting the youth vote there, perhaps.
Yeah.
What kind of running mate would be ideal for Harris should she get the nomination? What would she be looking for?
I would, if I was her, Roy Cooper's one of the names. He's the outgoing governor of North Carolina, outgoing in the sense that he's in his second four-year term and he can't run for re-election. But, here is a guy that's proven he can win as a Democrat in what, most people consider to be a red state. And he could also effectively deal with Republicans in the legislature. I think he could be a really strong candidate. People are talking about Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, because obviously Pennsylvania is going to be a critical state. The good news is this decision does not have to be made tomorrow. So they have time to do polling. They have time to vet the candidates and, come up with the one that'll, for the Democrats' sake, hopefully will be the strongest pair for November.
We will certainly be watching. Gary Nordlinger, George Washington University, thank you for your time.